Hi there, and welcome to Out There Cryptid Podcast. I'm TJ, and today we have a very special episode for you. Some of our OG fans may remember a little segment we used to call Weird Club. Well, I'm happy to say today we have a full Weird Club for you with one of the hosts of Cryptids of the Corn. Let's dive in. We'll get into the Weird Club with Cryptids of the Corn right after this.
Hi there, and welcome to Out There Weird Club. It's been a while since we've had one of these specials, but I'm glad to say we're back, and I'm glad to say that we have a special guest today. Some of you may have heard of the podcast, Cryptids of the Corn, and I am here today with Mr. E, one of the hosts of that show, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me, TJ. But like you said, host of the Cryptids of the Corn podcast. I also do another show called Freaky Fun on Friday, which is an educational show. It's more geared around kids, but it's all about animals. But yeah, no, I'm super happy to be here. We tied Jay up for this so we could do this and be professional. I don't know where he is. I gotta let you know, it smells better when he's not here.
Josh got lost in traffic, so it is just the two of us today. For those of you who don't know what Weird Club is, we're just gonna sit here and talk cryptids and they don't explain. That's it, pretty much. We just get to hang out for the next however long this takes. Mr. E, I do have some questions for you.
Go right ahead.
Just so we can get into this.
I like talking.
And get to know more about you. So, tell our listeners about the shows you run.
So the main show we do is Cryptids of the Corn podcast. It started in fall of 2021. And we've been doing this, and I'm actually a full-time doing this now. So I've had about every job. We kind of talked about that off air. But my big one was a fishery biologist for Midwest Biodiversity Institute out of Ohio. But we did the whole Midwest and everything like that. So I specialized in fish and salamanders. And I like birds. I have only about 800 birds on the front porch right now with baby chicks. So the show, we like to say it's where scientific and paranormal thinking combine. We really try to walk that line between understanding and the unknown, where we explain, like we've done episodes on the peer review process and how that's not infallible. Because for a lot of naysayers, they'll want a peer-reviewed study. And coming from that world, I knew that peer review didn't mean what normal people, I guess, people that don't have to deal with that in academia, what that means. So like we've done that. We've done the science behind certain cryptids. We bring you up like a lot of ancient species. Like we just did I always say it wrong, the occulate, the Inuit wolf whale hybrid from Alaska. And we talked about, now I'm going to forget it, Ambulocetus, which was an early whale that had a fluke tail that ran around on four legs like a wolf on land.
Huh.
So there was an animal that looked like what the Inuits draw and call that creature. So we do a lot of that stuff where we find all kinds of really cool stuff, and we like to mesh them together. We've done specials on have you ever heard of the Crosswick monster?
No, I've not.
So it's a dragon from Ohio in like the 1800s that bit a boy and tried to drag him up a tree. And the other boy beat it off with a stick, and they ran and told everybody, and the kid had like bite marks on his leg. And the locals in Crosswick, Ohio found it, and they found it in a hole. It was like a 6-foot long big lizard dragon thing.
Huh.
2 days before, there was a train wreck across the creek that had circus carts on it, and they had 2 Nile monitor lizards in there.
Oh.
So we do that kind of stuff. We really try to research and uncover some of these. So yeah, if you're in 1890s in Ohio, you don't know what a 6-foot long monitor lizard is.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And maybe if you go to a circus, you've seen it, and they call it an actual dragon, like a Komodo dragon, which was brought to the Americas a little later after that. But, you have a giant reptile, and they're not lying. They seen a dragon. The kid got bit by a dragon. But yeah, we've done everything with cave systems. We've had a lot of scientists on that believe in the paranormal, which is really cool. So that's kind of like what we try to do. And we have fun episodes. We have goofy episodes. Every once in a while, we have to slip one of those in. We used to do, and I think we want to bring it back, 2 facts and a fake, where I find 2 ridiculous cryptids that Jay's never heard of, and I make up my own to throw in there.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And he has to figure out which one I made up versus which one or which ones are real. Whether they're real or not, but not my
I like
creation.
that. Huh. I like that. I like that the difference between our shows is you guys take a lot more of a scientific stance and you're trying to like sit there and debunk it and figure out what's going on. We just take the storytelling standpoints. We just try to, tell what's been told, and then maybe we'll go a bit into.
And we never. I've had my own paranormal encounters and that kind of stuff. So I will never tell anybody they didn't see what they said they saw. I wasn't there. I know for a fact the world is far stranger than anybody's understanding. So just because you've seen a Bigfoot with the glowing red eyes and disappeared into a tree, I have never experienced that. But I don't know that doesn't exist. Yeah. There's got to be a reason for that kind of stuff. And we never try to debunk anything. I'll give you. I guess that's not right either. Sometimes you just say it could be a lie. It could just be a lie, or somebody made it up. I can't say certain cryptids because we're friends with the people that maybe own the museum and the town that revolves around a cryptid that was 100% fabricated.
Oh no!
And I love the guys to death, and I love the cryptid to death. But it was always made up. It was, even when you dive into it, it was made up. But we always try to bring that kind of stuff. We did Alien Black Cats coming out in a couple weeks in Ohio again. So the DNR, see, I'm already rambling. I told you this is bad.
Oh, it's not bad. It's great.
The DNR in Ohio says there's no mountain lions in Ohio, no pumas. Now we have 2 confirmed trackways. One is 11 miles long on the Scioto River banks, and one is 5 miles long on the Ohio or the Lake Erie banks. The DNR came out and said they are real panther tracks. We do not have panthers.
What?
I always tell everybody at home, do your own research. If I say something, look it up. Look it up. I'm wrong. I get wrong. I get dates wrong. I'm a human. You're a human. We're gonna get stuff wrong. We're opinionated.
We're researchers. We're not. We look into the work other people have done.
Mm-hmm. But that's a watered down version of the DNR's official statement on that. Yes, they were confirmed. They were not hoax tracks. No, mountain lions don't exist in Ohio. Well,
apparently they do.
It was a ghost.
You mentioned you've had some of your own experiences. What have you experienced?
So it's a lot. I grew up in a very haunted house. For anybody that cares or doesn't know, I'm a very deep Christian. Grew up in a very Christian household. I've seen things that strengthened my faith, but I'm not here to beat somebody with the Bible. I don't believe in that. So everything I comes from a Christian worldly view, and my opinions come from that. So when we grew up in a haunted house, we had shadow entities, fake footprints, smells. We actually had a bathroom that would bleed, and I kid you not. And we never thought it was weird, right? Because we grew up there. We grew up there, so it's my dad always told us it was rust from the old cast iron bathtub that was covered in porcelain, and that when it would get humid, it would collect. And my dad believes in all the paranormal, but he would just be like, keep in mind, you don't want to freak out. You have 6 kids.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
There's only 2 bathrooms. You don't want everybody not to use one. So my dad's did is paint the bathroom blood red. And it worked. It's
a good solution.
I only found this out. I only remembered this because my little sister, she would have been 4 when we left. So she really didn't remember much of that house. And she was asking because she was looking on Zillow at it. It sold 11 times in the last 10 years.
Oh, gosh.
It sold 3 times the year we got rid of it. The people that live in it now live in a trailer in front of a 3-story house. Tells you anything you need to know right there. But she's like, why is that bathroom so red? And I'm like, well, the walls used to leak rust. And I'm thinking like, what? And I remember so I was probably 14 or 15. And I'm like, yeah, everybody's cast iron bathtub did that. Like, I didn't think of it. And we seen a Bigfoot on the property. We had a couple years of Bigfoot activity. And I didn't believe in Bigfoot for 3 years after I seen a Bigfoot.
Huh. So is it like out like by the woods or?
So we had the longest driveway in our county. It was about a mile. So you couldn't see any of our neighbors. We owned about 17 acres. Half of it was woodlot, half of it was pastures. We had all the animals. Our nearest neighbor you could see on the other side of a major field. So we were situated back against the woods. We had 2 years of problems where my dad was convinced it was a guy. My adopted sister, so she's older than me, said that she's seen, and it's, she thought she's seen a big black man in the cornfield one time. And I'm from Northwest Ohio. We don't have a lot of diversity. And so we had stuff getting stacked. And its stack started little all around the property where it'd be like wood and buckets. And we were fighting each other because there's 6 of us and we had chores to do. And we had a lot of animals and we lived on a productive farm. And so somebody was taking the buckets and stacking them on the fence post and doing so we were all blaming each other because we never caught each other doing it. So why you make life's already hard? Why are you making it harder? And then that first summer that we had the Bigfoot activity, that is kind of the highlights of it. We had, I had 2 kind of scary encounters. That first year, so I worked at McDonald's, so I'd have been 16. Sorry about the mic sound, everybody. I worked at McDonald's, so I'd have been 16. It was 4th of July weekend, and I was a closer. So I didn't get off till 11:30. We had a camper at Indian Lake, which is maybe 30 minutes from the house. I had already missed the fireworks, and it's 11:30 at night. So I'm like, I called my mom, and I'm just like, I'll come tomorrow morning. It's not worth it. Me driving up. I'm tired. I want to shower and nap and everything. She said, okay. So I'm the only one in the home. I drive all the way down this long driveway. I get there. We have 3 dogs, and this is important. We had Sunny, which was my brother's service dog. My brother's handicap. And this dog was a no BS, obedient, he was trained for a service animal. Mm-hmm. We had Bailey, which was my dog. He was ancient and a beagle. He was a toothless giant beagle, fat. And then we had Clarice, which she just died this last year. And she was 4 then. So she lived forever.
Oh, wow.
If you ever listened to the Bigfoot Society podcast, Jeremiah, she came in, kicked that door in behind me during an interview with him, pooped on the floor, and he could see it right down there on the camera, and left. So that's one of those podcasts during a live interview with an audience and everything.
Wow.
I'm like, all right, well, I got to clean that because that's horrible. But so I get home, and I open the door to let the dogs out because nobody's been home for hours. And they won't even come into the kitchen. So our house at this time was shaped like a U. So the kitchen was in the middle, the garage came out, and the living room came out. So it's a big U. So the kitchen's all glass doors. The whole front of it's glass. So I try to open the door, and the dogs wouldn't even come from the hallway into the kitchen. I'm like, all right, that's weird, whatever. So I walk through the U, and I go to the living room, which is all glass, like a big glass living room. I lay on the couch. Clarice and Bailey hop up on me, which is not weird. They're both little dogs, lap dogs. The weird thing is Sonny kept trying to get up on me, the big service dog. And I was like, what are you doing? I'm pushing him down. He's a Labradoodle, and so he's 150 pounds. And he's a trained service animal. He doesn't do that because he can't bump my brother. He can't, you can't do those things as a service animal because you'll cause him to fall. So he wouldn't get off me. And then finally, when he stopped, he laid right on the floor beside me. And I'm like, all right, well, that's weird. Way off in the distance, I'm texting my friend the whole time. Way off in the distance, I hear boom, boom, boom.
More of Weird Club with Cryptids of the Corn right after this.
And I'm like, it's 4th of July weekend. It's fireworks. We only had old people that lived around us. We had no, my childhood best friend lived down the road. That was the only kid family. The rest of them were like grandparents, right? You know, it's old farmers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, somebody's probably got their grandkids in for the weekend, whatever, and they're running through the woods because this big woods we owned a chunk of, we shared with like 6 other people. Like you could walk property to property through this big woods. So boom, boom, boom. I'm like, all right, this kid's lighting off fireworks in the woods. So I text Nick, and that's my childhood best friend. He still is. And I text him. I'm like, hey, are you in the woods screwing around? I keep hearing like explosions out there or something. Somebody's beating something with a hammer. It sounds like that, like a sledgehammer hitting wood. And he's like, no, and I'm actually in Pennsylvania. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's somebody else. Like, I'm not even thinking anything right now. Like, it's just, we had poachers and we had coon spotlighter. Like, you're going to have it, like people in your woods at night.
Mm-hmm.
The next room beside me is a huge gun cabinet, right? So I can go and grab a gun if I felt like I needed to. Again, about 5 minutes, boom, 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 a little closer, boom, 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 a little closer, boom, 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 a little closer, always 3. Now I'm freaked out because I'm like, they're on our property. Like, they're definitely on our property. I'm texting Nick that. We had this giant dead tree in the corner of our yard. And I hear boom, boom, boom. And so that's maybe 200 yards from where I'm sitting. And I'm like, okay, I'm paralyzed. And what's freaking me out is the dogs aren't making a sound. Sonny had defended my mom from an attacker one time. Like, they're not moving. They are petrified. Sonny's actually shaking. And so he's freaking me out more than anything is the way he's reacting. So I'm laying there and I'm on an old glass room. I'm too scared to get up and get a gun because I don't want whoever's out there to see where I am because I'm laying flat on the couch. So if I stand up, it's all lit up. They're going to see my silhouette and see where I'm going.
So is this dead tree, like, would it be visible from that room?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I were to look out the window, I could have seen it.
Oh.
And then about another 5 minutes later, the side of our barn, our huge barn with our horses and goats, you hear boom, boom, boom. You hear the horses freak out and they actually break out of the stall and are whinnying and running through the pasture. And the dogs still aren't moving. And so that's only probably 100 yards away, you know, maybe a little less. And I'm like in tears. And Nick had been texting me nonstop and I hadn't answered any of it. I was too scared to open my phone because I didn't want the light to show. And that's the flip phone days. And the last time my brother had a Porsche, a project car, and you just hear boom, boom, boom. And that's like 25 feet from where I'm sitting. It is, and so I'm just crying.
Lord.
Like, I'm just panicked. So at that very moment, my aunt and uncle came down in their convertible, flying down the driveway because they needed to get something from the house. And I come outside, I'm bawling. Like I'm a 16-year-old country kid. Like, I'm not biggest and toughest there is, but you know, we've done a lot. And so they grab me and the dogs. They see I'm obviously scared. And we go into my grandma's house, which is the house I own now. The next day, Nick's dad is an ex-detective, military police, and SWAT. So he comes out because they come back from Pennsylvania. And I'm freaked out. And he found everything I said. He found the marks and he told my dad's name Bill, but he called him Billy. He's like, yeah, Billy, somebody was hitting the barn and the car with the sledgehammer and they hit it 4 times. And I was like, no, they hit it 3 times. And Nick's dad was like, no, they hit it 4 times. My dad was like, well, why do you think they hit it 4 times? And he showed us the barn and why we thought it was a sledgehammer is about 9 feet off the ground. There was 4 indents beside each other. So he's like, see, they were swinging it and the only way you could reach is a sledgehammer and they hit the barn up there. So what do you have 4 of? I was thinking it was knuckles. I always thought it was that was hitting the same spot 3 times. I also found it on the Porsche, and I don't have it on this phone. I got to try to find it. I have it on a flash drive somewhere, the pictures of the Porsche where the thing hit. October, and then all the activity stops. Then next year, the next summer, so like May, the activity gets turned up to like tenfold. That was definitely the highlight of the first year. We had a bunch of like small weird stuff, like a lot of stuff getting moved. That was I maybe didn't emphasize, like I'm doing the fast version because I could talk about this forever. But a lot of stuff was being moved that first year. The second year, the stuff got turned up to 10. we had a giant grain bin that had like 2 8x4 sheets of wood was the lid. Because my dad, we had so many animals, we'd buy food by the pallet and he'd dump the whole pallet in there to keep the rats and mice out. Somebody kept leaving it open, so animals kept getting into it. And that was a lot of money because not only is animals getting into it, but rats pee on it and make it, make it bad. And so, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for a poor Ohio family. Like, so we're all on edge fighting and upset at each other because this is costing a lot of money. Somebody keeps doing it. There's also, I had a bunch of egg-laying chickens, but I had fancy chickens. Have you ever seen that show, Crazy Chicken People?
No.
It's on Netflix. I'm one of them where I show chickens, like at a competitive level. I did then when I was a kid. I still do it. It's like dog shows. You ever seen dog shows on TV? It's just the same with chickens. Okay. And there's big money in it too. So I had chickens at that time that were probably north of $900 a piece.
Jeez.
But I had a lot of egg. I had a lot of $2 chickens too. Don't get me wrong. Like most of my chickens were 50 cents. But somebody started taking some of my really expensive chickens. And this coop that they were in was 100% animal proof. Like you either had to turn a latch to open it or open a man door. It was electrified. We didn't have mink getting into it. The whole chicken was disappearing too, which was odd. Because predators, you can ID who you're called. So I also run our county's poultry department now for 4-H and kids and stuff like that. So you can tell a lot about what predator took your birds by the scene after. It's very, very easy to do if you know what you're looking for. The whole bird was gone, which nobody does that. And like no feathers, because even like dogs, coyotes, they tear them up and it's just a mess. Animals that do take whole birds though, there's still blood or feathers or like a sign because they have to grab that animal, kill that animal, and drag it away. Yeah. Like, so it's like a guy was doing it. And we were sure. My dad at this point was 100% convinced it was a man. 100% convinced. And my mom had just got diagnosed with cancer and we were all on edge, like extremely. And this stuff keeps happening. So my dad was ready to get whoever this was. If he ran into him, it was not going to be good for that guy. So we had, and then why the grain so we actually had grain start going missing. You ever been around horse feed? Yeah. It's sweet feed for everybody at home that may not know. So it's covered in molasses. Even if you put it in your mouth, it's pretty sweet. I mean, I wouldn't say it's tasty, but it's sweet. It's got sugar in it. Like it's got a lot of sugar. And I think that's what the thing was wanting was the sweet feed. Because it was free. It was easy. Now, we bought a red healer. Her name was Lucy. If anybody's ever had red healers, everybody knows they're monsters. They're job-oriented dogs. Because that's what they're for. They're for to keep animal, like, what Lucy would do is she would put livestock in the barn and walk the property line all night, every night, and eat anything that got in her way. We came home one day and she was covered in blood. We thought she was all cut up. Now, she had killed a coyote and was basically ripped its guts out.
That's a good dog right there.
But you couldn't touch, like, I could touch her. Like, she would probably eat you too. Like, she's a job. That's not a dog you put inside. Mm-hmm. Like, she will eat you or eat your house but she would run anything out. And like, so one time deer got in the pasture and she made the deer go in the barn with the horses. So the next morning, my mom goes and opens the barn doors and all these deer run out. And Lucy was just looking at her like, why'd you do that? Took a lot of work. Like I spent all night doing that. Like that took a lot of effort to get those in there.
That's great.
Because they were in the pasture and they looked enough like the goats and the deer. She's like, you go in the barn. It's nighttime. The problem was if an animal ran into the woods, Lucy would not pursue. Yeah, that was her job. Like she knew the property, like not the property line, but her line of surveying. The problem was if like a possum or a raccoon ran up the first tree, the very first tree when it hit the wood line, then she can still see it. So it's not leaving. Mm-hmm. So she would sit there and bark and bark and bark and jump and bark all night. So we got to the habit of having to get up. Me and my one brother would have to go and knock the animal out of the tree, whatever it was. a raccoon or like, possums were the main one. We never killed possums, but they were so slow that they would run up that first tree. You had to kind of like coax them out of the tree and like just go in the woods, and she won't follow you.
Yeah.
So another thing I got to tell you before this next part is we also had horse trails in the woods and 4-wheeler trails, and we had show horses, and my dad had hooked up. He got a stadium light from an old football field and hooked it on our pole. So we had a big light because you work horses at night so they don't overheat. Horses have a big problem with overheating. So if it's cool and dark, you can still work your horses a little longer and a little harder without them overheating. So me and my mom did a lot of show horses and stuff like that. So my dad installed that for us. So we hear this, me and my brother Luke hear this one night, this barking. And we're like, all right, Lucy's got somebody treat. But we just got to go knock it out. And we go, I think we get a baseball bat and a golf club out of the garage. And we don't want to kill whatever this thing is. We just want to like get out of there and not get bit. As we start walking, Lucy's standing in front of one of those 4-wheeler holes, the horse trails. There's no trees. Like it's like till like 15 feet up. There's no trees. It's a big black hole in the woods. And there's one at the state. It's right by the stadium light. So it's hard. I always have trouble explaining this, but you know how you can cast like a light shadow, like you can't see through a bright light on the other side very easily.
Yeah.
It's that. Okay. So that hole is like that. So me and Luke, and like Lucy's standing right in front of the hole, barking, going nuts. And me and Luke get like 30 feet away, and we both see it at the same time. But I said, Luke, stop. And we see these giant chartreuse eyes and this hulking figure looking down at Lucy. And it blinks slow once, slow twice, third blink, staring right at us. And so I'm like 17. Luke would be like 15. And I'm like, don't run. By the time we got to the house, keep in mind, it's like 30 yards. We're in tears. Like we don't know what this thing was. It's huge. It's just this hulking figure. And my dad's like, all right, this is it. This is the guy. Like, I'm done. I'm done with this. You've scared my wife's sick. You're scaring my kids. So he goes outside. Me and Luke stand on the porch, and we can hear, like, it's only 50, 60 feet. And my dad takes the shotgun, and he's out there standing. The dog's still barking, standing in the same spot. And he's screaming at this guy, like, you mother effer, you know, you've tortured us for 2 years. This is it. Come out now. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And nobody obviously walked out. My dad aimed into the canopy up just to shoot and make noise. The second that gun went off, about 10 feet into the darkness past him, it sounds like a bison. It's just ripping through the woods. Wouldn't stop running. My dad fell back and he ran to the house, and he grabbed me and Luke, and he's just like, that's not a guy. That's all he would say. For years, that's all he would say is it wasn't a guy.
Wow.
And now I do like a Bigfoot festival, and he's open to it. But we didn't believe in Bigfoot still. I seen one. Fast forward. Oh, so we lost the farm that year with my mom's cancer. My mom was the big push. They actually had to foreclose on the house and everything like that. Because it was just a huge operation, and she was the driving force. And so when she got sick, it was just, we couldn't do it. My dad worked. He was actually a grain elevator mechanic going and becoming a dialysis nurse. He's the head of dialysis now. So he had a big career switch, but he's working all day and then going to school in the evening and then coming back. And then there's a guy bothering everybody. So like I said, when he was fed up, he was going to kill that guy. I'm 100% sure he was going to shoot that guy in the head. Dad, if you listen to this, he listens to a lot of these. Love you. But mom's fine now. Everybody ask. Mom's in remission. She's been good for many years. Praise the Lord. But so we moved out. So people always ask if like the next year did the pattern follow and stuff like. I have no idea. I can tell you, and we had like I said, shadow person and phantom steps and stuff get thrown. My mom got pushed down the stairs. We had a thing in the house, like an attic cover. It's just like a little square of wood.
Yeah.
It would always fly up like somebody yanked it back. So my dad always thought it was a draft, right? Because, old houses, like for this house, for example, is 3 stories. If you open the front door, there's an upstairs door that's loose that slams.
Yeah.
It's just that wind, that suction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that because it always freaks out our friends thinking there's somebody here, like hiding upstairs. Like, no, it's just that, like, it's just the suction in the old house. So my dad kind of thought it was that. So he screwed it shut. And then one day he went up there and it was pulled off the screws up. But he's like, it's raccoons. I My dad is a big believer in all of this stuff. Don't worry, but he didn't ever want us to know, right?
Yeah.
Because why would you? Why would you let your? Because like I said, I was the oldest biological kid, but I had a 4-year-old sister and brother. A set of twins at the very end. Like, what do you tell a 4 or 5-year-old? Yeah, there's a shadow person that lives in the attic that rips stuff out of the that I can't do anything about. It just lives here with us.
Yeah.
So like I said, the house is sold, I think 11 times in like 10 or 12 years. And the people live there now, which is weird. They moved like a huge barn, like an 80 by 60 foot barn. They moved it across the property. They don't live in the house. They live in a trailer in front of the house.
That's crazy.
And I've never talked to them. They do not come into town. Yeah. And that property had a lot of strangeness, a lot of occult stuff. But yeah, so there you go. There's my dealings with the paranormal. That's why I never doubt anybody. Like, because my stuff, I didn't believe for years after I seen it. Like years. And I think these shows all the time. And I know some of them personally now, which is amazing.
More of Weird Club with Cryptids of the Corn right after this.
Bigfoot, we did a 2-part series of times Bigfoot has been killed. And it's from like 1650 to like 1880. And then we could find like 250 accounts in that time frame of people shooting wild men, hairy man. There was one account where a guy had shot one, wounded it, chained it up in his basement and let people come see it. And this is like the 1790s.
What?
Yeah. And he kept shaving him. Mark Muncie from Eerie Travels podcast. There's a famous one in Florida from like the 1890s or 1880s where they thought it was a guy. And they caught this giant, they called him a mongoloid, which is a derogatory term for, it used to like for mental illness. Like Down syndrome and a lot of those things in the old days would fall under a mongoloid. So now we use it synonymous with like melon heads and water heads and that kind of stuff. Those diseases, hyprocephaly is what that term's called. But they called him a mongoloid. Like, they can't talk. He's giant. It takes like 9 men to restrain him. They shaved him, and they're like, he's just so hairy, and he's mean. And they kept him drugged up in this insane asylum in Florida until he broke out one day.
What?
They're like, we got it. And there's records of this. Like, they put him in a carriage and took him there. And like, we just got to keep him drugged up because he's going to, like, he's just violent. He's just a mongoloid. Like, he's just this big violent man, handicapped man. And they're talking like he's 8 feet tall kind of stuff. The folk monster in Arkansas had a similar story. Not the original, or not the 1900s folk, but there was in that same area in like the 1800s. They tried to teach him how to ride a horse. They caught this Bigfoot. They called him a blue man because his fur was like blue-black. And they kept shaving him, and they're like, he was mean and he couldn't talk, but we kept trying to teach him to ride a horse. He'd work on the cow ranch. And one day he killed the horse and he ran away.
Man, what were we doing to Bigfoot back in the day?
And people are like, well, why don't they show themselves? Because every encounter they had with white people, settlers to the area for 200 years was horrid.
Mm-hmm.
There's Jacko the monkey. You know, many of them got hit by trains. We probably had 20 stories of them being hit by trains or shot from trains because they'd never seen a train. It's moving 80 miles an hour. It's probably the fastest thing they'd ever seen. And you're just like, what is it? And then get smacked, or then a guy pops out with a rifle and shoots you.
Man, it really was just settlers, because like you got all the stories from Native Americans, and they're like trading with them, or they'll meet with them, but they don't have as many stories about them being violent.
So we've done a couple of deep dives into that. It's heavily tribal based, and the more north you go, the more violent the stories get from the Native Americans.
Huh.
And there's a biological reason, and the Bigfoot get bigger. So there's a rule called Barramin's rule or law. Mammals the furthest from the equator are the largest. And it's all about surface area versus volume for heat retention.
Okay.
So that's why pachyderms, even you see giant pachyderms, elephants in Africa near the equator, their relatives, like proboscideans, were one of the biggest mammals ever, 40,000 pounds to the north. which make a modern day African bull elephant look tiny. So the further away they get, the bigger. Anyways, so we see this with Bigfoot. Same stories. Like you hear Alaskan Bigfoots are always like 10, 11 feet tall, hulking brutes. And it's probably because of the surface area, the Bergman's law, where they have to be bigger. It becomes more efficient for heating.
Yeah.
For mammals. And also, I think Bigfoot are very intelligent. I think they're on par with us. I think they have different needs or wants or fears or whatever. But I think they're just as intelligent as us. By that, I don't think you could hand one a smartphone and he could do it. Like I couldn't hand my grandpa a smartphone and he could do it. It's not that he's dumber than me. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
But it's calorie dependent. So when calories are scarce, the further north you go, that's where you start seeing these devil monkey stories, the scary Bigfoots, the Stonish giants, these headless valley of Canada, where they're talking about these big giant monsters ripping people apart. Portlock, Alaska. These stories get more violent the more north you go. And I'm a big believer. It's just calorie dependent. They don't get the luxury to be nice. They don't get the luxury of passing up and picking food and stuff.
That makes a lot of sense.
So when they see us, I think they do recognize us as an intelligent species. And that's not every tribe and that's not every Bigfoot up there. But there definitely are like blood apes and Canadian devil monkeys. And we did a story a long time ago where they killed a whole bunch of them in this village. And they said they would just not that they would materialize, because a couple of people have used it as paranormal Bigfoot. But these creatures would just pop out of the shadows and pick these people off one by one every night. They take 3 people every night. And they found their caves in these cliffs, and the Bigfoot were in these caves. So they literally started these fires and pulled out all the oxygen and killed them. You ever heard of Megatherium, the giant ground sloth?
Yes.
So that's how we killed them. If you ever wonder. Megatherium were like elephant-sized giant ground sloths. They were big, mean, and probably dumb. And they were omnivores. A lot of people don't realize that. They were not obligate herbivores. And we have fossilized poop because they made these giant dens, and so they made their own cave systems where they would have like mammoth bone fragments and even smilodon bone fragments, saber-toothed cats. Because you're talking about an animal the size of a small bus with claws that are half a foot long and a bad attitude. And so what they think they would do is they would kill or bully off of kills. So if smilodons or early humans had a kill, they'd smell the blood and they'd come out of their cave or their hole and wander over. And they're just so big and mean that they'd push humans off of it or smilodon off of it. And if you stayed around and fought, you became a part of the meal. Humans did a fascinating thing. We started building fires at the mouths of their giant cave systems and pulling out all the oxygen, and they'd all die in their sleep. So they went away really quick. But you imagine a 20-foot tall at the shoulder, they're like 18-foot tall at the shoulder, sloth with a grizzly bear mentality, just walking around your town looking for food.
I'd rather not think about that. And
people don't believe in Bigfoot. That animal, we know it existed. We have there's a guy down the road found a skull of one from prehistory, and like Gigantopithecus. We have giant apes. We have apes, and I don't know if Bigfoot's an ape. I think Bigfoot's a manatee, but we've got all this evidence of other species that have existed before us, and Bigfoot's the thing that puts people off. I take it to shows with this. I have a replica, a museum quality piece of a Gigantopithecus skull. Gigantopithecus blackie is the only confirmed species right now. They're actually working on 2 other species of Gigantopithecus from the bone fragments. Now, we don't have a lot of information because first Gigantopithecus blackie, which is the big one, was discovered from teeth fragments that the Chinese were calling dragon's teeth in these caves. They were grinding them up for, what do you call that? Not ritualistic medicines, but basically homeopathic medicines. They said these dragon bones and teeth could cure anything. So a guy had seen him and was like, that molar is like the size of my thumb. And he's like, where'd you get this? And they showed him the cave and everything like that. And there was just chunks of Gigantopithecus. So conservative estimates put Gigantopithecus blackie at like 8 to 9 feet tall, if it could stand upright. There's arguments about that because we don't have any of the hip girdles. Really, we have like little tiny pieces, but we don't have any piece that's big enough to be like partially bipedal like an orangutan or a gorilla, fully bipedal like us. We don't know. And then like you see the big sagittal crest, we actually have pieces of that now. So they had these giant heads. And like a Bigfoot, they have these giant neck muscles. And so they have a very similar silhouette. There's a couple estimates that put them at like 12 feet tall, they could stand upright. And there's a couple extreme estimates that put them at 15 to 16 feet tall, they could stand upright. There was an ape that conservatively, let's say, stood 12 feet tall. The average Bigfoot size reported in the U.S. was 7.5 feet tall. They were there at the land bridge both times it formed in Asia, Russia, that kind of stuff. So there's a big theory why humans didn't cross the land bridge the first time because humans were there. There was, well, you ever heard of the Denisovan people?
No.
So the Denisovan cave was found near the land bridge in Russia. It's like 14 days by like back road truck to get to in Siberia. A long time ago when it was discovered, it was a group of internationals, including Russians, English, Americans, scientists. And they started finding these bone fragments in this cave of an ancient human. They found a pretty full skeleton of an 11-year-old girl. And she was like 7.5 feet tall. And they found some pinky bones of a parent, they assumed. And he'd have been like 9 or 12 feet tall. And you can still, everybody Google how big were Denisovans. You'll get everything from like 5 to 6 foot tall. Look at the bone measurements compared to a human, like to a modern Homo sapien. Like they were huge, and they lived at the land bridge. And so did Gigantopithecus. So why they think humans didn't, true humans, either Cro-Magnon, Homo sapiens like we are, or whatever, why we didn't cross the first time, because we were there too, is short-faced bears covered the bridge. Short-faced bears were like a little bit bigger than polar bears. They were these giant, and they were the galloping bear. They're one of the few predators that do what we do, is just keep behind a prey animal and keep it running until they're exhausted, and then they eat them. We are the highest stamina animal, and reindeer are the second alive today. Not me. I'm big. Humans in general. And then so reindeer are the second because they have 700 or 800 mile long migrations where they don't take a break. So if you look at like humans did the same thing for a long time. That's how we hunted animals like mastodon and bison and stuff. You just chase them. By the time they stop their turn to fight, they are so exhausted. They're sluggish. I don't know if you've ever been around an exhausted cow. That's a whole different game. Like you walk up and stab it to death. Like, yeah, it can't move. It's panting. These guys did the same thing. And they were mostly meat eaters, when most living bears today are omnivores. They'll eat whatever they find. Polar bears are the only living bear that's 100% carnivore. These guys weren't 100% carnivore, but their diet was like 80%. And one of their favorite foods was early people. We have a couple caves that they just had a bunch of crushed skulls of humans from short-faced bears. Because they loved eating the brains. So, yeah, the first time we didn't cross the land bridge, yeah, it was covered in giant monsters.
Yeah.
But a 12-foot tall, stand upright bear, a family of Gigantopithecus, would not be nearly as scared of that. They always have the joke about the grizzly bear versus the gorilla. Grizzly bear would win just because of size and power. But if you had two animals that were the same size, but now there's 5 Gigantopithecus blackie versus one short-faced bear, that bear is not going to bother. It's not worth it. It's going to, and same with, the Denisovans. They're another candidate people throw out there for Bigfoot, modern-day Bigfoot, because we don't know a lot about what they look like. We know they were a hominid that was massive, and they had spears and stuff like that. So a 9-foot tall guy has a much better chance with a big spear to fight off a short-faced bear. And now there's 30 of them, right? So that short-faced bear is like, I'll deal with the people. Like, they're so much easier.
Yeah.
We did a lot of that in an episode called The Monsters That Made Us. We talk about a lot of there's a cat called a homotherium in Africa that is like their version of the modern-day saber-tooth cat here. And they specifically ate people. They were human hominid specialists. Their fangs, we have so many where they would bite the back of your skull and pierce through your eye sockets with their fangs.
Jeez.
So when you have these creatures, like you ever heard of the Nundy bear?
I think so.
So it's a big animal from Africa that a lot of early explorers said they seen. The people in Africa, it's a monster. It's like basically a brown bear sized animal with a much worse attitude. But they specifically bite the back of the skulls off and drink out the brains. And so a lot of early European explorers thought that was African mumbo jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, okay, like you guys this is mysticism. And one thing we always say is you believe the natives. If you go to a place and they tell you, yeah, there's a 14-foot lizard that comes out of that hole every once in a while and grabs a kid. There probably is a 14-foot lizard that comes out of the hole every once in a while and grabs a kid. They live there.
Yeah, you might as well believe it. You don't know.
Yeah, but we do a lot of reports from like the 17, 18, 1900s early with a lot of European explorers, and they're like, are these dumb savages? And it's like, oh, and then they're right. But so like Homotherium, short-faced bears, there's a giant hyena species, and like hyenas love eating brains. Hyenas absolutely love crunching bones and eating brains. So through that Nundy bear stories, we found a lot of biological evidence to modern day creatures. It's not like a weird, like, oh, it's a sci-fi thing because it's eating brains. No, most carnivores actually don't eat the meat, the muscle tissues of a lot of animals. So muscle tissue is not very nutrient. It's very hard to digest. We unlock its nutrients from cooking. We break down the cells. We break down the nutrients in the cooking process. Organ meats are the ones that produce easy to digest nutrients. So you look at like killer whales hunting gray whales. They only eat the livers out of them because they can't digest the blubber. They just can't. Their system can't handle it. They can't digest the meat. So like you see, I can ramble. You got to be careful with me and whales. If we get on whales, that'll be 4 hours of whales.
All right, let me.
Oh, we only did one question.
Yeah, that was a one question. Listen, we're here for a good time and a long time.
More of Weird Club with Cryptids of the Corn right after this.
All right, what going off of cryptids and back towards your podcast? What made you want to start the podcast?
Me and Jay formed a Bigfoot club, the Hardin County Bigfoot Club, and it went good for a while, a couple years, and through no fault of anybody's, but everybody stopped showing up. Right? It was just too hard. It was just me and Jay, and we'd sit there and talk for 2 hours. We were like, well, let's record it and just start doing that. And that's it. And it bloomed, and we fought for like a first year or two, had nobody listening. Like we would force people to follow it on their phone. And now it's what I do. I'm very blessed. It's what I do for a living.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
They're even faster.
It always comes from the most unexpected places. Like,
yeah, like we were
just record it.
I literally bought. Jay likes telling these stories. I bought an Amazon podcast pack. I didn't have any money, and my dad was like, "Don't have any money to be spending on that stuff." And my dad's very supportive of everything I do. I have an amazing father, but he was trying to help and be like think about careers and stuff like that. And when he did so I bought it. It was like $200. Amazon kit. It was horrible. And then my father-in-law that Christmas bought me a really nice microphone. I had no idea what phantom power was. So if you run to a microphone that uses phantom power, if you run power to it, you just kill it. You just burn your mic up.
Huh.
I did it 3 times in a row. And we end up recording the first seasons on an iPad. Literally, when there was a thing called Anchor around, we would record straight onto that and would publish it right after. No editing, 0. I mean, 0.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Jeez, an iPad.
Now we're having a professional studio built right now.
Yeah, I'd heard you guys mention that in one of your episodes.
Yeah, it's going really good. It's huge. It's huge.
Okay, you kind of answered this one with your Well, no. Okay. So you said with your experiences, you didn't believe for a while afterwards.
Yes.
What got you into cryptids and all that eventually?
Oh, I loved seeing lake monsters way before I seen anything weird. Because I wanted to be a biologist since I was a little kid, and I love the water, and that was what made sense to me, is that all of these monster, like the ocean is home to the biggest animals to ever live, right now,
Mm-hmm.
and most of these sea monster sightings are way smaller than a blue whale. So you're talking about the ocean has already supported some of the biggest monsters ever. So I was obsessed with it, and rivers and lakes and stuff like that, interlocking systems. I didn't start on the Bigfoot train for a long time. It took a long time. Like I said, years after I seen one. And if it wasn't for shows like Mountain Monsters and Finding Bigfoot, I probably would have never talked about it, because we never talked about it. My dad never brought it up again. Like I said, my mom went through cancer that year, and it was a horrible battle. So immediately we had other things, and we had to move, and life was uprooted, and we were worried my mom was going to die. So you push it down and you bottle it up, and you just get rid of it for long enough, you don't think about it. So I definitely say sea monsters are what got me into the strange of all these historic sightings and all the animals that turned out to be real. I mean, like the oarfish was seen, the giant squid was seen for even in my lifetime. They'd never seen a live one until that Japanese scientist caught a video of one. And so they had no idea what that. So that's one of the biggest invertebrates, 40 feet long, 800 pounds. And then later we discovered there's a bigger one called a colossal squid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 3,000 pound squid.
Let me ask you this: Do you think, because it's considered a cryptid now, do you think Megalodon is extinct, or do you think it's still hiding somewhere?
Here's what I'll say about this, because we've had this question a lot on our show. Do I think Carcharodonta megalodonius, whatever the scientific name is, I do believe that animal is extinct. I do think there are 60 and 70 foot long sharks alive today. So there's a difference. So Megalodon was hyper adapted for specific conditions. And when we talk about extinction, those are the animals that go first. So the more hyper adapted you are to very specific things. So they were large cetacean eaters. Cetaceans are a huge group. So that's whales for anybody at home. The word cetacean means whales, dolphins, porpoises. That's the family group of them. So whales kind of did two things when they were being hunted by an animal called Leviathan, which was a giant toothed sperm whale that ate whales, and Megalodon at the same time. So groups of whales had two really big predators, and then orcas came on, and that was a whole different game. So when they came on, they had to either go shallow, where the Megalodons and Leviathans couldn't follow. So that's your gray whales, your sifting feeders. So gray whales actually grab big mouthfuls of sand off the bottom of the ocean and sift that through their baleen and eat the little crustaceans out of that. So they adapted to be shallower and shallower, getting away from those predators, because only about a big one's like 40 feet long, which is still a huge animal. But when you're talking about, a blue whale that the record is 120 feet and 500,000 pounds is nothing. And that's the other way. Is then the other group, the other side of baleen whales got big. They got big and streamlined, and they became just these hard things to chase. They became calorie hard. And then when you caught one, you had to fight it to the death. So if you look at the whales Megalodon was preying upon, specifically, so how we know this is we have so many Megalodon teeth stuck in whale vertebrae from impacts. And then there's a bunch of them where the tips are broken off or the whole tooth is stuck in there. Sometimes the whale lived, sometimes it didn't. Megalodons were targeting like these 30 to 40 to 50 foot long whales. They really didn't go for any of the bigger species. And then humpback whales started doing these giant communal groups with interspecies communication. And they developed, you ever seen the big white spots on the humpback whale's flipper and head?
Yeah.
Those are purposefully there to grow barnacles because they use them as armor and weapons.
Huh.
So it's like brass knuckles when you have a 12-foot long flipper and you swing all your weight. You're hitting them essentially with a coral reef. So whales did a couple things. The group of whales that Megalodon and Leviathan were preying upon were getting shorter and shorter because whales were either going shallow or getting big and being in big groups. The final nail in their coffin, there was two kind of big ones, is during the last ice age, when some of the water receded, some of the ocean currents vanished. So they weren't these big chunky like white sharks like we see today. Most estimates put them as much more lean. You ever seen a lemon shark? They looked more like that.
Yeah.
So long, lean, still huge. I mean, we're talking, a 60-foot long shark. But they would probably ride these streams, these currents, to hunt prey, to be energy efficient. During the last ice age, some of those got cut off. So their prey source is adapting to them. They have competition from Leviathan, another brute that they would eat each other. We have Leviathans that were eaten by Megalodons, and Megalodons were eaten by Leviathans. They were getting social, and these dropping currents, and they couldn't go shallow. And then they also think that it may have attacked their nursery areas. So these giant kelp forests, we think that they were give birth in and stuff like that. There probably wasn't a lot of them. We think there's only like 2,500 to 3,000 great white sharks today in all the oceans, because they're interocean species. An adult great shark can visit every ocean in its life. The last big nail in their coffin, and we see this with both Leviathan and Megalodon, was the appearance of orcas, the true modern species of orca. And orcas are known to prey bully, where they may have been following Megalodon and Leviathan and sounding the alarm bell, like when they were getting too close to a pod of whales. They may have wanted to hunt later. So these whales hear a sound and they, panic and start running. Or when the Megalodon or Leviathan, their only weapons they have is their mouth, or trying to eat something, they come in and hit them in the gills, which is how they still deal with big sharks today. So I really think there's enough evidence to really point that Megalodon, the true species Megalodon, went out the window. They weren't thermal vent hiders like you see in the Meg show. There's this book series called The Trench, which is all about, the Meg series is based off of that book series, where they were basically hiding in these thermal vent crevices. The last, like a time capsule of them. There are, I think, fascinating things down there. And I think there are huge things down there. I don't think they're megalodons per se. Now, we have sleeper sharks and six-gill sharks and Greenland sharks, which are deep ocean gigantism. Greenland sharks are the oldest living vertebrate. We have one that's confirmed at like 511 years old. And that was like 21 feet. They grow like 5 or 6 centimeters a year. Really slow growers. There's a video from Japan that I believe is 100% real from like the 90s that would show like a 45-foot long Greenland shark on the bottom of the ocean. So yes, I believe, and we did a story on this giant white shark. And now I don't mean a great white shark. I mean a shark that is 100% white off the coast of Australia in the 70s. Thousands of fishermen seen it. And they called it, I can't remember the actual name for it, but basically the white devil. Because they thought it was destroying their nets on purpose. We talked about it being either a whale shark or a subspecies of whale shark that may be a cryptic species, because sometimes they can be white. And whale sharks they have a problem right now. They get tangled up in fishing gear because they like to eat little fish. So these fishing gear is full of little fish. So all these stories, it's like, this giant white blob that's 70, 80 feet long would swim right into the net, get caught, and rip its way out. And so I do believe in giant sharks. Lead 60s is one of the biggest fish we ever know about, and it's been extinct for a while. But it was like a giant whale feeder. Like, that's how it did. It filter feeded. It's like 80 feet long. Megalodons, depending on who you ask and which scientist review you go with, they were everywhere from 80 to only 60 feet to some people are putting them down to 40 feet. Right now, I believe the scientific consensus is they were like 72 was the biggest they got, which is huge. I mean, that's a huge animal. You're talking, a semi-trailer is 52 feet long. So another 20 feet on top of the semi-trailer. That's a shark.
That's terrifying.
I answered that one faster. That was only 15 minutes.
All right. What kind of stories that you guys cover excite you the most?
Living UFOs have been a really big one lately. I love unextinct animals. Like when we get somebody that sees something that they may not have known that matches so good. We used to do the American hyena thing a lot. Like we got a lot. We still have a big backlog. We did a documentary on the American hyena that's been seen everywhere. I love, and you know this from being a podcaster, but for everybody at home, it's different. Like we don't vet people. There's only been, I can only think of like 3 episodes I've never published because I didn't like the person or didn't like something they like really like, maybe it's more like satanic or whatever. It's been very rare. Even if I don't believe the person, when they come on and tell a story, it's not my job to tell you what to believe and what not to believe. So like, we don't name any names, but we've had people on we don't believe. We've had people on that I 100% believe. Yep. And so I guess that's probably my favorite. When you get somebody on, like we've had a couple kids on with their parents where they had seen something weird. And you look at this kid and he's just terrified. And it's just like, when you have those experiences, that's, I think, what matters. Because for people, that, like I said it earlier, the second you've never shared it with anybody or maybe shared it with just a couple people, the second it's out there, it is so much of a weight gone. And like our buddy Greg, like I said, he wears Bigfoot t-shirts. He got a stone Bigfoot in his yard. It ate at him though for years. He thought it was crazy. He thought, because he grew up in a generation that they had to beat you up at the bar for saying you've seen a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And you have, so those, when you see somebody and they share that kind of story and whatever it is, it doesn't have to be any particular topic, I guess. But that is nice. And then we love getting the old timer stories. Stories die with people every year. My biggest podcast regret is I just started doing the podcast before my grandpa passed away. The one I was really close to one of my grandpas. It was a Vietnam oil tank driver. He's seen Vietnamese rock apes. And they were not weird to them. They were not Bigfoot. They were not monsters. Like they were just a creature they had to deal with. And he would always talk about, like, when I came back, and he's like, I never thought it was weird. But he's like, when I came back, I was waiting for like 3 or 4 years, but now we'd start seeing him in zoos right after the war was over. And they never did. And he's like, until I started doing this stuff, he's like, I never really thought about it, that I just never seen these things. And he would draw them like orang pendek, and like they were halfway like between men and these red apes. But he drove an oil tank driver, and he had to shoot at him a bunch, because what they would do is they'd have to hide their tanker when they're traveling. And the rock apes would be on a cliff and chuck rocks at the oil tanker and make all kinds of ungodly noise and let the Viet Cong know where they were. So he's like, we just have to just shoot into the darkness at him. And he's like, they weren't Viet Cong. They were a thing. And he's like, they attacked the Viet Cong too. They did not like anybody.
That's so interesting to me that you said that, because my grandpa passed like 2 weeks before I started on Out There, and he was also Vietnam vet. He was one of the machine gunners on the helicopters.
Gosh,
but I don't know if he never mentioned it, so I don't know if,
because a lot of them didn't
ever saw anything.
But they don't know it's weird, right? Like he was saying, until I started kind of doing this stuff and talking about Bigfoot, he's like, they were kind of like little Bigfoots. And he was like, because it was never weird to him, because they all seen him, right? It wasn't like it was one guy seen it and that's like, all right, come on, Jim. You seen a little red man running around out there? No, they would drive around, and Grandpa would talk about like they were mean and they were nasty. He's like, we weren't scared of them physically attacking us, but they were really bad about letting the Viet Cong know where you were. And he's like, they'd hoop and holler. He kind of said they were like a thin orangutan. And yeah, I mean, it's just, and that's probably my biggest podcast regret, is not getting his story recorded. So even if I don't believe a person, or I have my doubts, it's important, I believe, what we do, recording, retelling, and saving these stories in a digital media. Have you ever read any of Adam Benedict's books?
No.
So he's got a couple. There's Monsters in Print, Ghost in Print, and Oddities in Print, where he spent, I don't know how many years going to the Library of Congress. And there's none of his own writing in there, really. He just takes the article from the Library of Congress about monsters, ghosts, UFOs, all the way from like 1609 to like 1950s, I think is where the books end. And they're just in these massive books. And if he wouldn't have done that, these stories would be gone. I mean, there's everything. We've used them from everything. There's flying snakes. And guys like in the 1700s talking about seeing dragons. And it wasn't weird. Like it wasn't like, it was rare, right? It was rare. Dragons are real, but they're rare. For anybody who doesn't know, there's, I believe, a Webster dictionary from like 1899 that has a definition of dragons that says now rare.
Huh.
This modern idea, so like dinosaurs and stuff like that. It's just weird to me that you can point and be like, dragons weren't real, but these giant Quetzalcoatlus was, which is the largest flying animal ever, a 40-foot wingspan flying reptile. What do you call that?
I mean, dragons are one of those things that are like across every culture. Every culture's got a dragon. Every culture.
Dragon, flood. I'm trying to remember. I just did this for an episode topic in the future. The 4 cultural myths that are like you just said, like across the board.
Dragons, flood.
The flood. Now I can't remember the other 2 that's gone. Gosh, well, I can look while we're talking.
Yeah, things like that are just like every culture's got it. You can't dispute it.
I mean, dragons, flood, big hairy people, and little people. That's what it is. So Bigfoot, and then like pukwudgies and or orang pendek, Vietnamese rock. Like, so orang pendek is it Laotian from Laos and like Indonesia, south of Vietnam, and they're a lot nicer. Have you ever heard any stories from orang pendek? Vietnamese rock apes. So Vietnam, you probably know this from your grandpa, but for everybody at home, Vietnam had been in a constant state of combat for like 1,000 years. It was not great. The Viet Cong used tunnels that were already dug out. They didn't do that during the Vietnam War. Like these mountains that had villages inside them and stuff like that were from previous iterations. And the whole reason we got in the conflict, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm giving the short version of history, was the French wanted control over Vietnam. The Vietnamese people didn't want that. If you know anything about the French, is they occupy a ton of like island nations and all that, like across the world, especially after World War II. So when our armies were using our military was using the Vietnam War and the soldiers as test dummies for all these products, and think like Agent Orange. So if you look at the rock apes that live there, they're dumping. If anybody didn't know what Agent Orange is, it's Roundup on roids. My grandpa, before he died, had 4 spots where it touched his arm, and I left these giant burns, and he had them until the day he died. My mom had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is they warn you about with Agent Orange exposure. My aunt was born without hip girdles, which they warn you with Agent Orange exposure.
Jeez.
So yeah, Vietnam was horrid. It was horrid for the people, and they got treated like crap when they came back. But nobody wanted to be there. That's why they had a draft. I don't know why people forget that. No one. 8 people that were excited. There's that guy. You ever seen that flamethrower Vietnam vet? He has no PTSD. He likes burning people. He talked about it like he misses it.
That's horrible.
But so that's why the rock apes may have been a little more agitated there. It's because they were dumping chemicals on the rainforest to melt it. Just toxic sludge is falling from the sky. So you're just mad.
If you've enjoyed this episode, then check out our Patreon, where for just $1, you can get the full episode and full interview with Mr. E. And let me tell you, the rest of it is an absolute blast. While we're at it, check out Cryptids of the Corn. Give them a 5-star rating. Watch some episodes. They're absolutely fantastic. They're entertaining. I love them. They're great. And I can't wait to work with Mr. E again in the future. With that being said, what do you think? Are ghosts, cryptids, and the unexplained really out there? Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Out There Cryptids for episode posts, updates, and more. Join our community on Discord, where we dive even deeper into the mysteries we explore here on the podcast. The link can be found on our Instagram. And if you're loving the show, consider supporting us on Patreon.
As a patron, you'll get exclusive perks like bonus episodes, early access, and even other surprises. See you next week.